We find ourselves now in the 3 weeks called Bein HaMetzarim, between the 17th of Tammuz, when the walls of Jerusalem were breached, and Tisha B'Av, when the first and second holy temples were destroyed. These 3 weeks are a time of national mourning. We diminish in joy. We don't take haircuts. We don't perform weddings, live music, etc., etc. But rather, we focus more on rebuilding the Holy Temple spiritually and, God willing, physically. And so the Parsha of Pinchas comes in the perfect time. The Parsha of Pinchas is a Parsha that deals with holidays, all the holidays of the year and all the sacrifices. It's to remind us that the objective of these 3 weeks is not to remain, God forbid, in mourning, and not only that the mourning shall be removed, but more than that, that these 3 weeks will be transformed to the greatest days of joy and holiday of the year. And so we talk about the holidays. We begin with the first month of the year, which is Passover. The Torah says the following. It says, on the 15th day of the first month of the year, this shall be the holiday of Pesach. And then it goes on to speak about the holiday of Shavuot, Uvayomei Bikurim, B'akrivchem min chadash el Hashem. And then it goes on to speak about the 7th month of the year, which is the holiday of Rosh Hashanah, the first day of the month. Again, it says, B'chodesh Hashvi be'echad lachodesh mikra kodesh yeh lechem. And then it goes to talk about Yom Kippur on the 10th day of the month. In verse number 7, again, Mikra Kodesh yeh lechem. It shall be a holiday, a holy day for you. And then it goes on to say, in verse number 12, and then on the 15th day, there shall be the holiday of Sukkot. Again, it says, Mikra Kodesh, it's a holy day. You shall call it holy. And therefore, don't do any work. And then it speaks about the 70 bullocks that are offered on the altar throughout the holiday of Sukkot. Each day is diminished. And then we speak about the final day, which is the final holiday of the year. And that is Bayoim Shemini Atzeret Lechem. Verse number 35, on the 8th day, you shall have the final holiday, and that's called Atzeres, or we call it today Shemini Atzeret, the 8th day. And therefore, what should you do on this day? What's the holiday about? What's the theme? Do we eat matzah? Do we eat blintzes? Do we fast? What do we do on this day? Says the Torah, Komeleches avoida loy sasu. Don't do any work. That's all you have to do. All you do is don't do work. It's called Atzeres. It's a day of restriction. But what is the theme of the day? So we look into Rashi. We look into Rashi, the classic commentator of the Torah. Rashi is the one who speaks to a 5-year-old child. A child who's coming to yeshiva, is coming to school for the first time. He wants to learn about the holidays. And now he talks about all the holidays of Passover. We were taken out of Egypt, and Shavuos, we were given the Torah. And all these holidays, Rosh Hashanah is the first day of the year. We coronate God as king. And Yom Kippur is the day of atonement. And therefore we fast for all our sins. And Sukkot, we sit in these huts to remind us that God protected us with clouds of glory throughout the entire year. For 40 years in the desert, when he took us out of Egypt, and he brought us to Israel, Eretz Canaan, the Holy Land. So for 40 years, he protected us with clouds of glory. So therefore, we have a holiday called Sukkot, where we sit in these booths to remind us how God protected us from the clouds of glory. But now we come to the final holiday of the year. And that is the holiday of Atzeres. And the Torah tells us nothing. All the Torah says is Atzeres tiyeh lechem. It's a day of restriction. And therefore, don't do any work on this day. But what is the theme of the holiday? What is the meaning of Shemini Atzeret? And why is this the final holiday of the year? We start with the first month, which is the holiday of Passover. And then we go through all the holidays, and this is now the final biblical holiday, the holiday of Atzeres. Says Rashi, 2 or 3 answers. Says like this. What is the meaning of Atzeres? Says Rashi, Atzurim be'asiyas melacha. It's a day that we are restricted from doing work. Okay, what does that mean? Why are we restricted from doing work? What is this all about? Number 2, Davar Acher, another interpretation says Rashi, Atzeres, what does that mean? Atzru melatzes. You are restricted from leaving the city of Jerusalem. You came up for the holiday. You now came to bring sacrifices. You are not allowed to leave on this day. Atzru melatzes. Melamed. From here we learn, says Rashi, Shaton Lino, that you have to sleep over the night in Jerusalem. I can tell you one thing, the hotels made a lot of money this night because all the Jews had to be there in Jerusalem. They did a killing. Can you imagine? All the bread and breakfasts and everything. Okay. Comes along Rashi and says, furthermore, we find in Medrash. The Medrash is like this. Lefi, Shekot, Yemois HaRegel, because all the days of this holiday of Sukkot, Hikrivu Keneged Shivim Umois, we brought 70 bullocks. We just read the passages. They brought 70 bullocks in honor of the nations of the world. The holiday of Sukkot was so powerful that all the nations of the world received their blessings for sustenance, for wealth, for health, for protection from the Jewish people. We prayed for them. And these bullocks brought these 70 nations of the world all their blessings. And the Gemara says more than this, that if the nations of the world would have realized the power of these 70 bullocks, they never would have destroyed the Holy Temple. And more than that, they would have protected the Holy Temple with their armored guards, that nobody should be able to touch it or hurt it. So this is the concept of the 70 bullocks. Says the Medrash Haggadah that all the days of the holiday, we now, for 7 days, offered a total of 70 bullocks. And now the Jewish people want to leave the Holy Temple. And they want to leave. God says to them, says God to them, I request from you. Also, the Suda, make for me a Suda Katana, make for me a small meal. So I should have pleasure from you. So this is the third approach that Rashi says. That what is Atzeres? Atzeres is a day that God says, sleep over here. Don't leave. Stay one more day with me. Don't leave the city of Jerusalem. Make for me a small meal so that I can have pleasure from you. What does that mean? What's happening over here? What is bothering Rashi? What is the difficulty here in Rashi? Furthermore, we know when Rashi brings 1 or 2 or 3 interpretations, this is because one interpretation is insufficient. Because if it would be sufficient, he would stop. He's talking to a 5-year-old child. He doesn't want to confuse the child. And all of us are on some level this 5-year-old child. Besides the brilliance that Rashi had to also encompass and inspire the 95-year-old child, but on the other hand, he is taking the lowest common denominator. So what is bothering Rashi over here? The fact that he gives here 2 or maybe 3, as we'll soon see, interpretations, is because one is not enough. It's insufficient. What is wrong with the first one? And what is wrong with the second one? Because if the second one would be good enough, we wouldn't need the first one. So each one has a deficiency. And finally, he brings a third one to wrap it all together. This is Rashi's question. This is what the Rebbe says, a beautiful insight over here. A big chiddush. He says, if you look at the verses with a fine-tooth comb, you will realize that all the other verses say that on the holiday is called Mikra Kodesh. It's a holy day. Mikra Kodesh, you shall call it holy. Make it a holy day. And because it's holy, Mikra Kodesh Yelechem, it shall be for you holy. Therefore, Kol Meleches Aveda Lo Yisasu. Because of this, you shall not do any other work. Okay? So it's a holy day. What does it mean? We don't do work. We don't build buildings. We don't sew buttons onto our jackets. We don't write with a pen. There are 39 malachas generally that we don't do. Besides, for holidays, we're allowed to cook, we're allowed to carry. But generally speaking, it's very similar to Shabbos. It's Mikra Kodesh. Okay. Comes to Shemini Atzeret. We just mentioned all the holidays, the first day of Passover, the last day of Passover. The holiday of Shavuos, and Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. These are all Mikra Kodesh. And it comes to Sukkot, the first day, Mikra Kodesh. Comes to the last day, Mikra Kodesh. All of a sudden, we come to the final holiday of the year. The holiday of Shemini Atzeret. If you read the verse, it says, B'yoyim ha-Shemini Atzeres tiyeh lechem, kol meleches aveda lo yisasu. Don't do any work. It omits the words Mikra Kodesh. It is not called holy. We don't call it Mikra Kodesh. And this is what bothers Rashi. Why does the Torah omit by the final holiday the words Mikra Kodesh? You shall call it holy. And because of this, Rashi now struggles, so to speak, and scrambles to try to find a solution to this question. And therefore, Rashi tells us, you should know that this holiday of Atzeres is unique. It is unique because it's not called Mikra Kodesh. It's a day that the prohibition is not to work. What's the difference? All the other holidays are called Mikra Kodesh because it's a holy day. The day itself is holy. Therefore, we don't do labor on these days. Shemini Atzeret is different. It's not called holy. Rather, Atzeres tiyeh lechem, you should not do work. In other words, the person shouldn't do work. It's not the day that is causing us to prohibit the work. It's rather the people who are not doing work on this day. It's not coming from above, from God, Mikra Kodesh, but rather it's coming from below. It's coming from us. We don't do work on this day. You shall not do work on this day. Now we'll soon expound on this more. So let's hold on to that thought for a moment. This is the first interpretation of Rashi. It's different than all the other holidays. It's not called Mikra Kodesh. But what is it? We don't know yet. What's the problem, however, with this answer? Why is it insufficient? It's insufficient because primarily this entire chapter, in the end of the portion of Pinchas, is talking about sacrifices. It's not talking about if we should work or not. It's true, it mentions don't do work, but that's not the main theme. The main theme of these portions and psukim and verses is primarily about the sacrifices that are brought on the altar. So there has to be a connection between Atzeres and the sacrifices. So comes along Rashi and gives us a second interpretation. And that is, what is the meaning of Atzeres? Atzeres means you are restricted from leaving the city of Jerusalem. Not only are you restricted, but you have to sleep over in the city of Jerusalem. Now this answer is also good, because now it's consistent with the concept of sacrifices. Because you're bringing a sacrifice the next morning, you shouldn't be running out the night before or having a meal together. So sleep over. However, the inconsistency here is that the verse itself clearly says, don't do work. So again, it's connected with work. It says, Atzeres tiyeh lechem, the day of Atzeres shall be for you, and therefore, kol meleches aveda lo yisasu, don't do any work. So again, it's still associated with work. So each one has an advantage over the other. Comes along Rashi now and gives us a third interpretation. But really, it's not a third interpretation. Usually, if Rashi gives us a third interpretation, he would say davar acher. But here he's not simply saying davar acher, another interpretation. He right away brings the medrash, because in essence, this medrash answers now the first and the second answers of Rashi. What is the Medrash? The Medrash tells us what is the theme of this day of Atzeres. And the Medrash says like this: you should know that the holiday of Sukkot was a holiday that we brought 70 bullocks onto the altar. It was a holiday that primarily we were celebrating with the other nations of the world. But now, you should know, I want to celebrate the holiday with you, with my children, with Am Yisrael. And therefore, till now we brought 70 bullocks for the 70 nations. Now bring just one bullock. Par echad, ayel echad, one ram, one bullock, to represent one nation and one God in unity, with one Torah. And let us spend the day together. And being that we're spending the day together, I don't want you running out and doing sightseeing or doing your errands. I want it to be an intimate day, a quality day. I want to spend the entire day together, day and night with you, just me and you, one-on-one. This is the day of Shemini Atzeret. Now, because of this, because of the fact that we're spending the day together, so therefore, obviously, Atzurim b'asiyas melacha, you're restricted from doing work. It's not a day to do work. It's a day to spend quality time. It's a day of love. It's a day of unity. It's a day of intimacy. And because we're together, you shouldn't be running out somewhere else. You need to stay over here. You're gonna sleep over, and we're gonna be together. This is what Rashi is telling us here. And that is the theme here of Shemini Atzeret. Now, based on this, we understand a very interesting insight. And that is, the Alter Rebbe tells us in Tanya that all the Rabbinic holidays has its foundation in the 613 commandments of the Torah. So what does that mean? A Rabbinic holiday, for example, or Rabbinic mitzvah, for example, is that we wash our hands before we eat. Okay, so we wash our hands before we eat. It's not in the Torah, but it's based on a law in the Torah, and that is that the Kohanim, the priests, before they entered into the Holy Temple, they had to wash their hands, had to wash their feet. So because of that, the rabbis came along and said, wash your hands before you eat bread. We have another mitzvah, to light the menorah, Hanukkah. It's a rabbinic law. What's the basis in the Torah? The basis in the Torah is Hanukkah. But really, it's the Beis HaMikdash. In other words, because there was a holy temple, and every day in the holy temple, they lit the menorah. It was a mitzvah to light the menorah. So now we light the menorah on the holiday of Hanukkah. But again, it's based on a mitzvah in the Torah. Another detail, when it comes to light the Hanukkah menorah, says the Talmud, says the Mishnah, that we put, says the Talmud, that we put the mezuzah on the right side, and we put the menorah on the left side. Where do we get the idea of putting the menorah on the left side? Is also based on a Torah law, and that is the mitzvah of tefillin. Tefillin is put on the left hand, not the right hand. So we see that every concept in rabbinic law is based on Torah law. The same is true over here. Every holiday today in America, outside of Israel, in exile, in Galut, we celebrate an additional day, which is called the second day of exile. In other words, according to Torah law, Passover is only 7 days. We celebrate 8 days. We add one more day. Shavuot should be really 1 day. We celebrate 2 days. Even Rosh Hashanah was supposed to be 1 day. It's celebrated 2 days here, and also Israel for other reasons. Comes the holiday of Sukkot. It's supposed to be a total of 8 days. We celebrate 9 days. Where do we get the power? Where do we get the power to add another day? Where do we get that idea to add another day? So halachically is done because in the time of the Holy Temple, when they would sanctify the new moon through testimony, through witnesses, people would say, I see the new moon. They would come to Beis Din. Then they would be questioned to identify how they saw the moon and where they spotted the moon, etc., etc. Then Beis Din would inaugurate that day, authorize that day as Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month. And then from that day, 15 days later, was Passover. So if you're close to Jerusalem, you know when Beis Din sanctified the new month, you know when Passover was. But let's say you're somewhere in Europe, you're somewhere in Ukraine, and you're somewhere in China or America, you're far away from Jerusalem, you don't know when they sanctified the new day, and you don't have fax machines, okay? You don't have cell phones. There's no way to find out when the Beis Din sanctified that day, so you have to send people on horseback, okay? They have to travel to all these places to tell them when the new month was. Make a long story short, because there was a doubt when the new month was, we keep an extra day. But again, where do we get the power to do so? And the answer is from Shemini Atzeret. Because what is Shemini Atzeret? Shemini Atzeret is a day that God added the last minute. He says, guys, look, you were here 7 days already. And you're about to go home. You had your tickets to go home. Change your ticket. Stay one more day. It's a last moment thing. It's not like we're going to celebrate an 8-day holiday. No, we're celebrating 7 days of Sukkot. And now is the last day, guys. Do me a favor. Sleep over tonight. Tomorrow we're going to have a great party together. Don't go. Please, stay with me one more day. It's a new thing. It's a new holiday. And this is what God says to the Jewish people. About Koshimim came. I'm asking you. It's not coming from me. I'm asking you, do me a favor. Stay one more day. The other days, I'm telling you it's a holiday. Today, I'm asking you, please, make for me a meal so that I can have pleasure with you. So this idea of a last moment thing, this idea of adding one more day, even though it wasn't on the schedule, this concept is the authority and the power that God invests within us to be able to add one more day to the holiday. And in truth, because this is the last day of all the holidays of the year, this gives the Jewish people the ability to make new holidays like Hanukkah, like Purim. These holidays that we add to the year come about after Shemini Atzeret, after the last holiday of the Torah, in the 7th month. Now, already we add later in Kislev, the holiday of Hanukkah, and we add the holiday of Purim, etc., etc. And in truth, what it's telling us is that every single day we should remember that we have the ability to add holiness to everything that we do. Because of the love that God has for us, God tells us every day, take out some time and remember this intimate relationship that we have together. Yes, there's a big world out there and you got to do business and you're traveling to all the 70 nations of the world and you're making a commotion and you're a big shot and you're making a lot of noise and you're an influencer. But you know what? Take some time and let's be intimate. Take some time and let's spend time, just me and you together. And this is done by prayer, it's done by meditation, it's done through Torah study. This is the way we continue to draw from Shemini Atzeret, from this final day throughout the rest of the year. There was a story once, years ago, that Arik Sharon, first a great general, and then later the Prime Minister of Israel, he came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he was there discussing various maneuvers and insights and secrets, what was happening in Israel and the army, etc. And the Rebbe said to him, so when are you going back? He said, I'm planning on going back, tomorrow. The Rebbe said, do me a favor, stay another day. Don't go back right away, stay another day. What do you mean? Yeah, the Rebbe said, go do some shopping, buy some jewelry, buy some gifts for your wife. Don't go right away. Stay another day. I wasn't planning on it. I already had the ticket. Just change your ticket. Don't worry. Stay another day. So the Rebbe says to him, stay another day? Okay, I'll stay another day. So he pushes off the ticket for another day, and he flies back to Israel. When he finally lands in Israel, he hears on the news that the plane that he was supposed to be on was hijacked. And they were looking for a high official, a general from the Israeli army. So the Rebbe saved his life. Why? Stay one more day. To share one more story, being that we're in the 3 weeks now, and we pray every day that these 3 weeks should be transformed to the greatest days of joy, of happiness. So in the early 1950s, the Rebbe went up to the camps 3 times. And rather in the late 1950s, the Lubavitcher Rebbe went up to the camp 3 times. Camp Emunah, the girls' camp, and Gan Yisrael, the boys' camp. And he visited them, and he prayed there, and he spoke to them, etc., etc. And he came back that same day. That was his vacation. He left in the morning, and he came back in the evening. And just to mention, he never took a vacation. All the years that he was a Rebbe. So, while he was there on the grounds of Gan Yisrael, he sees a boy from a non-Hasidic home. He calls over the boy and says, Zog mir dein Namen, tell me your name. And the boy says, Shmuel. He says, Nein, Zog the ganze Namen, tell me your whole name. He said, my name, Shmuel Yosef. Oh. So the Rebbe, to the director of the camp, no, not always do we have the merit to have amongst us the family of the Mashiach. The director had no idea what the Rebbe was referring to. So the Rebbe tells the boy, Zog the Tata's Namen, tell me your father's name. He said, my father's name is Chaim Meir. Oh, said the Rebbe, Oishes Mashiach. These are the letters that spell out Mashiach. Mashiach, if you spell out the word Chaim Meir, Shmuel Yosef, those 4 names spell out the word Mashiach, Mem, Shin, Yud, Ches. It was a clear prophecy, an open prophecy. But the story gets better. Many years later, about 30 years later, this fellow, Shmuel Yosef, went by for dollars before the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Rebbe used to give out many, many dollars to thousands of people that came every Sunday to receive his brachas. And you had a split second to go by. Now, the Rebbe hadn't seen this boy for 30 years. The first time he saw him, he was a little camper. Now he's a grown man with a beard. And he walks by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says to him, Nu, was machst du, Reb Shmuel? Was macht dein Tate, Reb Chaim Meir? How you doing, Shmuel? How's your father doing? And he quotes both of their names. So this is the point. On one hand, you look at the story and you say, wow, the Rebbe had prophecy, had a total recall, what a holy person, what a brilliant person. That's the way the Chassid looks at the Rebbe. But how does the Rebbe look at the Chassid? The Rebbe looks at every Chassid, upon every Jew and every person. I see within you the potential of Mashiach. I see within you the power of redemption. I see within you the power of change. And that is the way we have to look at ourselves, that each one of us has this spark of Mashiach. And throughout these 3 weeks, more than ever, we have to access that spark, to access that spirituality, to access that holiness, mikra kodesh, to make it holy. And by doing so, by transforming ourselves and revealing the Mashiach within ourselves, this will bring about the ultimate Mashiach. And as the Rambam says, that these 3 weeks will be transformed to the greatest days of joy with the coming of Mashiach. Amen.